Before Athens carved its first marble column, before Rome dreamed of empire, there were cities on the African continent whose walls touched the sky, whose boulevards were lit by bronze fire, whose engineers mastered mathematics long before the word existed in Europe. Cities so vast, so organized, so culturally rich that travelers who witnessed them wrote in astonishment, "This is not barbarism, this is civilization." Tonight, we journey into a chapter of ancient history the world has tried again and again to forget. This is the true story of when Africa built cities that rivaled Athens. Imagine the African continent not as a place of scattered villages, but as a mosaic of rising powers. Kingdoms learning to bend stone, bronze, and earth into monuments that reflected their spiritual and political might. Long before Greek democracy found its footing, the banks of the Nile had already produced architectural revolutions. But what the world often misses is that this brilliance did not remain confined to Egypt. Civilization flowed southward into Nubia, Kush, Axum, and westward into the deep forests and savannas where kingdoms such as Benin and Great Zimbabwe transformed spiritual cosmology into architecture. And so our story begins not in Athens, but in the beating heart of Africa. Travel back to 800 BCE. The desert wind races across northern Sudan, carrying sand that glitters like powdered gold. In the distance stand hundreds of sharply angled pyramids, more than exist in all of Egypt. This is Kush, Egypt's great rival, a kingdom the Greeks respected and feared. Kushite engineers developed complex mathematics for constructing triangular monuments long before the classical world understood their geometry. Their capital, Meroe, shone with iron furnaces, temples, royal baths, and streets bustling with merchants from across Africa and Arabia. Greek historian Diodorus Siculus wrote with awe about the Nubian kings, noting their wealth, discipline, and spiritual traditions. These were not imitators of Egypt. These were innovators. Meroe became so powerful it conquered Egypt itself. The Kushites ruled as Egypt's 25th dynasty, ensuring stability, reforming temples, reviving art, and creating a unique Afrocentric renaissance centuries before Athens had produced Socrates. But here lies the deeper marvel: the city's engineering. Meroe was built with planned streets, reservoirs, metal workshops, and university-like centers for scribal training. It was a city of knowledge, a city of fire, a city of queens. Women such as Amani Renas, the one-eyed warrior Kandake, commanded armies and negotiated treaties with Rome on equal terms. Africa's story of great cities does not begin with Europe. It begins here. But this is only the prologue. Thousands of kilometers east, rising like a titan above the Ethiopian highlands, the ancient kingdom of Axum built one of the most sophisticated cities in the ancient world. In the 1st century CE, Axum's capital boasted multi-story palaces, terraced architecture carved into mountainsides, advanced water channels, and stone monuments so tall they challenge the engineering traditions of every known civilization. And towering above all, the stelae.
Obelisks weighing hundreds of tons, carved from a single piece of granite, transported without wheels, and stood upright with precision that modern engineers still debate. Some reached heights of 33 meters, equal to a modern 10-story building. Axum was no isolated empire. It was a superpower. Roman, Persian, and Indian merchants recorded their admiration for the city's wealth and orderliness. Axum controlled the Red Sea trade, minted its own currency, and maintained diplomatic relationships across continents. Even the Roman Empire acknowledged Axum as one of the 4 great powers of the world: Rome, Persia, China, Axum. And yet, in today's history classes, the name is often whispered, if it is spoken at all. Now we move westward, through the savannas and forests of modern-day Nigeria, into a city whose artistic and philosophical achievements force the world to reconsider what civilization truly means. This is Ife, birthplace of the Yoruba civilization, flourishing between 1100 and 1500 CE. When Europeans first encountered Ife's bronze and terracotta sculptures in the early 20th century, they refused to believe Africans had made them. The pieces showed perfect anatomical proportion, serene facial expression, and a level of realism that rivaled classical Greek statuary. Art historian W.F. Grillo called Ife the most marvelous artistic culture of the medieval world. But Ife was not merely a city of artists. It was a city of philosophers. The Yoruba conceptualized cosmology through mathematics, representing the universe in fractals, a schema modern computer scientists now admire. Their city planning, circular markets, administrative quarters, radial streets, reflected spiritual harmony. Ife was proof that intellectualism thrived in Africa as deeply as in Athens. And soon, from this cultural brilliance, another city would rise. One so advanced that European explorers could not comprehend what they were seeing. By the 15th century, its streets were lit at night with palm oil lamps arranged in mathematical lines. Its royal palace stretched across acres, decorated with carved ivory, symbolic bronze plaques, and sculptures documenting historical events with artistry unmatched anywhere on earth. When the Portuguese reached Benin in 1485, they wrote with stunned disbelief, "The city is wide and straight, better than any in Portugal." Benin had structured taxation systems, professional guilds, diplomatic embassies, and a government hierarchy comparable to Rome or Athens. And yet its marvels would provoke jealousy. By 1897, the British Empire launched a brutal campaign, burned the city to the ground, and stole thousands of bronzes, masterpieces now displayed in European museums. But even in ruins, Benin's legacy survives. Proof that Africa not only built great cities, but engineered entire civilizations with their own philosophies, aesthetics, and scientific methods. Southward, across the high plateaus and rivers of present-day Zimbabwe, lies the hushed skeleton of a forgotten metropolis, Great Zimbabwe.
Built between the 11th and 15th centuries, this stone city rose without a single drop of mortar. Walls stretching up to 11 meters high snaked across the landscape like the coils of a stone serpent. Towers, courtyards, and grand compounds demonstrated architectural vision unmatched anywhere else in medieval Africa. Archaeologists still debate how the city's builders transported and arranged hundreds of thousands of granite blocks with such mathematical precision. European colonizers, upon discovering the ruins in the 19th century, refused to believe Africans had built it. They invented myths of Phoenicians, Arabs, or lost Israelites, anything but African hands. But today, scientific evidence is unequivocal. The Shona people built Great Zimbabwe. It was a center of gold trade, spiritual authority, and political sophistication. Its influence stretched across southern Africa, connecting to Indian Ocean trade routes that linked it to China, India, and Persia. This was not a tribal settlement. This was an empire with a stone heart. So why does the global narrative ignore these cities? Why do we grow up hearing of Athens and Rome, but not Benin or Axum? Part of the answer lies in colonial politics. For an empire to justify domination, it must first deny the achievements of those it conquers. Europeans systematically erased African architectural history through textbooks, museum theft, and academic exclusion. But another reason is philosophical. Africa's knowledge systems, oral traditions, fractal mathematics, spiritual cosmologies did not fit neatly into Western definitions of civilization. They were dismissed because they were different. Yet difference does not diminish greatness. Today, archaeologists, historians, linguists, and African scholars are rewriting the map of global civilization. Satellite imaging reveals forgotten cities hidden beneath forests. DNA research traces ancient migrations. Excavations uncovered tools, scripts, and artifacts that rewrite timelines. The truth becomes clearer with every discovery. Africa did not receive civilization from the outside. It shaped civilization itself. Ancient Africa gave birth to cities that rivaled Athens, and in some cases surpassed it. As we look back on these cities, Meroe's pyramids, Axum's monoliths, Ife's bronzes, Benin's vast earthworks, and Zimbabwe's stone walls, we are not just revisiting a forgotten past. We are confronting a global memory that has long been distorted. Civilization is not the monopoly of one continent, one race, or one philosophy. It is a tapestry woven from the genius of many peoples, and Africa's thread is bright, unbroken, and ancient. When the world finally learns the full story, the landmarks of Athens will no longer stand alone in our imagination. They will stand alongside the pyramids of Kush, the obelisks of Axum, the sculptures of Ife, the boulevards of Benin, and the stone towers of Zimbabwe. Proof that the human story has always been bigger than we were taught.